Hey everybody, this is Petey from the Spin Rack, and we also have
Robin Ellis, ready to rock.
now Shang-Chi is setting up, selling out, doing great numbers during this quarantine period. We did our review on this. We had our issues, but then there's another issue, a struggle that Marvel's going through with their big number releases, and every one of their big number release has a big release in China. And now there's a big halt, and they're finding new reasons as they go along to halt these movies. And Shang-Chi is no different. So, can you give them a little overview of this?
In 2017, Simu Liu did an interview where he was recounting the struggles his parents had in China, which led or forced, whichever one I suppose fits the bill. I believe it's more forced them to immigrate to Canada. And one of the stronger comments that he said was that people in China, I mean, the people in China starved to death, that they weren't being taken care of in this particular regime. And it's a communist regime at the end of the day. So that was 2017. Fast forward to 2021, Simu Liu is the lead in the Shang-Chi film. However, Trump is not happy about the comments he made back in 2017, and it's pretty well knowledge that they're not looking to release the film. They're not looking to release the film Shang-Chi in China. Now, part of the biggest problem with that is that Disney has been working diligently for some time, okay, to open that market in China because they know they can do really good numbers there. The people there love the Marvel films, and so they want that open. That's the Silk Road. They want that trade route open when it comes to their films, but China holds all the cards as to what gets seen there and what doesn't get seen there. So and it goes a little bit more because if they're saying, well, look, we don't want Simu Liu's film inside of China, that means you couldn't put him in an Avengers movie because they would say, hey, look, we don't want to see him in anything at that point. He'd be in the backdrop. So we'll see how everything shakes out. They might be able to work out something at the end of the day, but that's pretty much where the situation stands.
I was talking to Mars earlier about this, and I mean, this is a tough one because this is a case of a market where you make money or standing on, standing on your principles, or Marvel standing by, you know, Simu's his comments. Now, I'm not sure that they're taking a side in this. I mean, his experience is what it is, but at the same time, you have a thing like I think the movie Pursuit of Happiness, the person that was based on talks about doing deals with people with he didn't necessarily you know, connected with as far as their angle, that they were, some people could be racist, this, that, and the other. And he was like, it didn't matter. His job was his job. And this is a hurdle that Marvel has to, or Disney has to go through because they've been spending most of their time since the beginning trying to make sure they didn't offend, the Chinese market by removing the Asian actors from it to say, hey, nothing in here that could bother you. Oh, but we added in these other characters, and now they're like, we got 95% Asian in this movie, behind, front, and behind the scenes. And then that's not enough to push this thing through, even though what that one person has said some stuff they haven't liked. Now, with the other stuff, there's other movies that have issues too, right? The other movies like the Eternals.
With the
I know that
Eternals, the Eternals is a little different. Actually, there's a distinct difference between the two of those because uh, the director Chloe Zhao, she made statements, but these are like clearly political statements
mhm.
where they can advise you, look, don't say stuff like that because we're trying to get the film out. And okay, she put a foot in her mouth or what have you, and it's something she can walk back or not. But Simu Liu, he's talking about his parents' experience living
Yeah,
in China. So what does he do? He comes out, he apologizes, but then if he apologizes, it's almost like what your parents were lying.
yeah, that's the other thing too.
So that really does become dodgy, because now it becomes, look, we want the market, but we're gonna deny the truth of what goes on in China so we can get the money there. And then it's the same thing, because if they keep trying to work this out, eventually, China just has a stranglehold. It says, look, you'll do whatever I want because you want to come over here and make the money at the end of the day. Now, I'm not certain what China gets out of this whole thing by letting the films play there outside of money, but you know, this will be a great moment, or great watershed moment, because if they knuckle under, then everything that they put into to make Shang-Chi a hit, if they do another movie, it's not going to see the same budget. They're not going to do it. They'll regulate this guy to the back at the end of the day, which would be terrible. But in the same breath, if they keep him, then they're like, well, we're not going to be able to get certain films out there. How integral can we make him part of this universe if if we decide to push it? But the bigger thing for me is, this is different because he is relating the experience of his parents who lived in China. He is telling their story. Now, if the Chinese government has an issue with that, that's fine, but it doesn't make what he's saying not true. More than likely, it's truer than a whole bunch of other stuff we would hear. So, what do you do in this case? You're not going to force him to apologize. And if you regulate him to the back, that's terrible, because he's going to get regulated because of what this country did to his parents while they were living there. But you're willing to do that because you want to make certain that you keep the Silk Road open. So I'm not sure how they work it out. And I know how these companies are. They're really not concerned with Simu Liu's parents. They're concerned with opening up as many avenues of revenue as possible. So I'm not sure how they work this one out, if they work it out.
One of the things, I don't know why that keeps doing that. One of the things that we initially had we had the one of the things that happened recently with the voting laws. They decided, Disney, a lot of people decided to take it out on Atlanta, right? Remember hearing that, where they were like, oh, we're not going to shoot in Atlanta because they're putting
Right.
all these voting things on there. They're not turning around and saying, hey, China, you're kind of being a little, we're going to take our content from there. They're like, it's like almost equivalent to what happened with the NBA. With I think one of the people, I think he was on the Rockets, he made a comment about China, and then LeBron, who's been heavily been an activist about many things, said the person make the comments about China has been misinformed, and then a lot of people took him to task, saying, "What does he mean by misinformed?" And then that kind of, and the news can be the news because they're not killing themselves. Try to, they can make money off of it, so they're in the best place to exploit it. But it's one of those things where I bring all out this up to say is that if you made that strong thing against Georgia and say, we're thinking about not shooting down there, then you can make the strong case to say, hey, this guy didn't say anything wrong. We we're not gonna put our films out there, but they're not gonna do that. They know that it's a good portion of the worldwide box office, so they're going to do whatever it is. They are not going to worry about um, any sort of blemishes in China's history or present history. They want to keep these doors open, and that's one of the things where they try to be kind of the forefront, but then they have this money thing where they have no way to really guilt China into doing what they want. So they have to play ball, which is kind of a hard thing. The people, we all sort of think of ourselves as we're always on the right side of things, but where it's Disney's in a stage where they're still trying to get that money, and they like that money. So like, why would you want to get rid of it? But they have a couple movies they're still waiting. I think even unrelated, the Black Widow hasn't been released yet. So there's some things that they're kind of waiting for to happen, and we haven't been able to. I mean, I really had issue when they would comment on they put out. I mean, it's just random people, but talking about how black the Black Panther movie was. The people were black and the scenes are black, and it's just like, all right, can anyone just translate this to dark and not have the comment of the people? There were scenes that were dark, yes, not all of them, but it's like, but
Well, you can't sell that. If you sell people a dark, people got to wonder. You say black, then everybody can get up fired. What? What?
well, we couldn't do nothing. Everyone just said, I was like, they just said the scenes of black. I walked into the theater, and it was like, at some point, like in the Titanic, it was dark as hell, and the theater was dark, and you just say, well, because they're white people, I can see them. Like, it's just nutty. But this is a tough thing because it really shows you, the old saying of where your bread is buttered, and trying to keep this market open. And it's like,
It's more. It's a lot of greed on their part because this isn't like keeping the market open in, say, I don't know, Nigeria or another open country, because China only allows a certain amount of films to be, released there. So if Disney's in good, they're like, not only can we make a lot of money here, we got a lock. We don't have competition. So we release a movie in here, it's playing, people are going to go see it, we don't have to worry about this, that, and the other. It can run for the release date, where we release it in the States and we're going to lose 50% the next weekend. We may lose 10% in China. So, and then they have really been working since Iron Man, since 2008. They have been working diligently to get to this point, and now I really want to, it's amazing that the actor in the film that should be there. This is it. This is gonna put us on. We're always gonna have movies over there. We're gonna make it. These movies after this movie, they're gonna always have movies, because if not, the people will rise up and overthrow the government. They're gonna need these movies just to keep everybody in check. And because China wants to do this particular route, it may never be seen. But though they've been playing hardball with the other ones too. But I just don't know what Disney. I really don't know what Disney plans to do with a lot of this stuff. So we'll see.
yeah, I think that definitely that really covers it. It's when I was thinking about it just now, that aspect where we trying to get most of our celebrities to be kind of activists, and or just like the way some of our more popular music, the kind of people try to talk about their struggle, and that's an important part of someone representing their struggle, and that's, this is what got me to this stage, which a lot of people relate to. And then we have a story where he's pointing out his life, and then next thing you know, basically they're at a impasse for him just telling his story, which is something that the people, I mean, just to be looked at and say, oh, he just said these things that didn't mean much. And as far as well, this is his story, doesn't mean that it's all terrible. But I don't know, it's tough. It's tough when you look at this sort of thing, because they kind of trained to talk about their struggle. It is to say, well, I went through this. This is my hardship. This is that and the other, and we don't always think about, you know, oh well, someone grew up in the South and that sort of stuff, and say I went through X, Y, Z, and then like, or like the Tarantino and the cops. So Tarantino complained about the cops, and it was like, hey, we're gonna we're gonna boycott it. Like, we're not sure what we're gonna do to your movie. like he said, we haven't figured that stuff out. So, but it's basically something that, in my mind, something that a lot of celebrities do, where you. But I think Marvel now at this point, they're kind of looking at it and saying, maybe we shouldn't have our and this is, I guess, is well before it. This is 2017, so it doesn't relate to them kind of pushing out Brie Larson, and Brie Larson kind of talking about this, the struggles of females and that sort of thing. They kind of pushed her out, and then they kind of pulled her back, because they kind of, like, I guess. But I think this is sort of what people kind of do, and now you're finding out that, especially with the internet not going anywhere, it just brings back everything that you said, and then you have to be called to task for whatever you said, even if it's still true, you know. So, please comment on this. You got any more insight on this thing? Please comment. Please go back. Like, we'd love to go back and forth, point out anything that we're missing. And any other thoughts on your end, Cal?
Yeah, we don't say this enough, but we always think it when you guys do. Like, subscribe, and stay with us on this long journey of looking at film, the inner workings, all that great stuff. And yeah, we would definitely have some comments on this one because for me, this is it's a moral moment. It's a moral moment at the end of the day.
Mhm.
You've got, mm, I mean, the cosmic irony of this whole thing, it just can't be escaped. Everything that you have been working towards to get your films played in a Chinese country could be derailed by, by a Canadian Chinese actor whose parents lived in China,
Yeah,
and telling it like it is.
yeah. So that said, spinner rack.
Out. Will Mickey do the right thing?